Welcome to the Slow and Steady Sisterhood, where the race set before you is best run at conversational pace. I'm Nikki. I'm doing another solo episode today, but I have a really amazing guest today, Cheri Whitt. She is one of the admins on the Just Jeffing It Facebook group. She is a Galloway trainer. She is a close personal friend with Jeff Galloway, and she's got a ton of knowledge about the run, walk, run method and the Galloway method. And she's just somebody that I have taken a lot of feedback from online. I love reading her posts. I love having her comment on my posts. And I'm just so excited to have you here today, Cheri.
Thanks. Well, I'm excited to be here. I love sharing the Galloway love. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. We've got such an amazing group of runners, and we're such a close-knit community. And I feel like I don't think that if there's anybody in there who's a negative person, they usually get weeded out pretty quick, but everybody's super supportive of each other. And we're all trying to just get to the finish line, and we want to do it together. We want to have fun, laugh, and smile and be upright. So that's our goal, right?
Yeah, I really appreciate that it's just a positive page. Their negative comments are not, I mean, you don't see those. I've been in other Facebook groups where you post things and people will go in on that person and they put all these negative things and they accuse people of things, and it's just not what running is. I don't think that's what running's supposed to be.
No, running is supposed to be encouraging, and I think honestly, because here's my thought process behind run walk. The people who do run walk are smart, right? They're not I don't want to call runners dumb. But I think that if you're constantly in a boot or you're constantly getting injured, maybe you need to rethink your training, because we want to run to we're 100, right? So the race that we're running, the race that's set before us is not a time goal. It's a to finish. We want to finish. And so I think that most of the people that are there recognize that. And there are people, obviously, in the group who want to qualify for Boston. They want to get faster, and we applaud that too. But we accept all runners where they're at, and we encourage them when they succeed and they meet goals. And so I think that we've kind of weeded that out. And in the beginning, we had some people who showed up who were trying to get people to, until you can straight run. But that's not our goal. And I have a funny story about that. When I was e-coaching with Jeff, when I first started doing Galloway, would you like to hear it?
Yes.
Okay. So I had decided to become a program director. When I first started running, I had just come back from having a stroke and being in a coma and being in the hospital for about 3 months. So learning to walk and talk again were my priority. But in that process, I thought, there's all these things I haven't done in life, and a marathon was one of them. So I started training, and I couldn't get past 3 miles. It was just so hard. And I thought, what was I thinking? 26 miles, there's no way. And my girlfriend, I've known her since first grade. Her name is Jo. And she said, hey, Cheri, there's this guy. And his name is Jeff Galloway. He does this thing, and it's called Run Walk. And so I was like, yes, let's do that. And so moving forward, my first marathon, I finished in 5:58 using 30:30, which is what he predicts. So I started fangirling. I was stalking him, and I would I would look at him from afar. Yeah, and I would go to Disney, and I'd be like, and she goes, well, there he is, go up and say hi. I'm like, oh no, there's so many people around him, I can't, oh my God. So finally I saw on analytics, right, your phone, and it something came across for a retreat in Carmel, and I said to my husband, oh my gosh, I so want to do that for my birthday. So he signed me up for that for my birthday. And I thought this was going to be something where, I'd be in this auditorium and Jeff Galloway would be the speaker, and maybe I'd get a picture with him. But it was really personal, like 10 to 12 people, and I got to sit next to him. And so I have photos where I'm always taking selfies with him, and I was just so just overwhelmed by the fact that here was this guy who was this Olympian, and he was taking the time out And he felt each one of us was important. And that was what I got from that. And so when I decided to be a program director, he was coaching me. And this is why Jeff always coached new program directors, so that we understood what the Galloway Method was. And I did this half marathon, and it was the Fargo, where I grew up. So the Fargo half marathon, I decided to run that for a second time the next year. And I didn't walk at all. I did, so when my beeper would go off, I'd do this, like, I'd slow down to a jog, and then when the beeper would go off again, I'd speed up to a run. And I was so proud of myself. And my time wasn't that great, but I thought, I'm getting there, and I can slowly go into all running. And when I reported it back to Jeff, I was like, typed in my email, blah, blah, blah. And he calls me and he says, don't ever do that again. And I'm like, do what? And he goes, our goal is not to become straight runners. You have to get that out of your mind. Our goal is to be more proficient in our running and to be upright at the finish and to not get injured. And I was like, oh. So I got schooled pretty hard from Jeff on that. And that was the last time I ever did anything like that. And my time was, I don't remember being super fast. It was probably no better than my time from yesterday. It was around 2:30, I think. And I thought I was powering through it. And at the end of the day, I wasn't, so. Right. But yeah, Jeff, I have many stories of Jeff where he has chastised me because I always try and do stuff and he's like, don't do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I have my only story on Jeff Galloway is in 2023 I signed up for the New York City Marathon. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I was doing. There was a whole lot of stuff going on in our lives at home, some family things, and I was like, I'm gonna do a marathon.
Oh, you mean life was happening for you?
Life was happening, and I signed up for the marathon, New York City, with the American Cancer Society, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a runner. I don't run. And so I thought you had to run straight through, and I was trying to build up my stamina, and I had a friend who was also running it. And she's like, I'm going to add you to this Facebook group. And so she had me do the Just Jeffing It group. Mm-hmm. And I was asking a billion questions, like all these questions. And I don't know who actually ran Jeff Galloway's Facebook page. But
the Just Jeffing It site, Jeff and I started that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
I got a personal message in my messenger from Jeff Galloway's profile. And he was probably like, in his mind, he's probably like, this girl is blowing up our group. We have to focus on everyone. And he just gave me advice on the marathon. Yeah. And I felt like a superstar. Jeff Galloway reached out to me individually because he saw that I had all these questions, and he could probably see all of my panic and all of my anxiety in all of the posts that I was posting and the comments that I was making. And he just set me at ease just through that one little message. Yeah. And it was it really changed who I thought I was going to be I thought I can never do this. And then I was like, well, I can do this. So that's just my only personal experience with him.
But that was who he was. He would remember your name. He would remember what race you came. He was just one of those people. He made everyone feel like they were a rock star. They were so important because to him they were. And, one of the things that most of us who have worked with him, we feel the same way. Everybody is so important and we learn from the best. And so I think being that small group of people who knew him and worked with him, and we got to soak in all that was Jeff Galloway. So now that he's gone, we can embody it and we can send it forward, because otherwise it's like, why are we here? Yeah. Why are we here? Why are we runners if we're not here to encourage and help other people? And people message me all the time, and I always get back to them, just because you never know what they're going through. And I had a couple people reach out to me. They wanted to know about the new coaching platform, and so they messaged me, and I said, I'm happy to hop on a phone call with you, because sometimes it's real hard to explain things in a message. And so we hopped on a phone call, and kind of went over things. They asked me some training questions. I gave them tips. Now, what they do with that, that's on them. But at least for me, I always say, like, what would Jeff do? Like with the Boston Marathon, that was my biggest thing, was when I was out there with this runner who was telling me they couldn't fail and please don't let them fail. And you're like, what would Jeff do? What would Jeff do? And in my mind, I felt that he would make sure that this person succeeded. So, and that was a hard one because, you know, as a coach, I think, well, maybe you should go to medical, you know, but when you're dealing with something like Boston and a 6-star finish, you recognize that, like,
I need you to drag me across the finish line. I'm just telling you.
I will do that. I would do that. Yeah. And that's where I was at. And we had a lot of couch quarterbacks who were like, well, you should have, you know, like one guy said, if she were a horse, you'd have put her down because that was inhumane. I'm like, well, she's a human being. And
she can speak for herself.
She made the decision. And even when we hit Boylston Street, the medic that took over for this Good Samaritan named Joe, once she said, I'm not quitting, he's like, okay, sis, we're going to take you to the finish line. And she's even now, she's recovered and everything, but she's so grateful. She said, had I gone through all that and not even gotten a medal, I'd have been devastated. So people from the outside looking in, they're always quick to judge, and it's fine to ask questions. But when they start doing the why didn't you, it's like, we can't go down that rabbit hole because I didn't. The bottom line is I didn't.
Right.
You know,
you did the best that you could in the moment to honor the runner. And you coached her? Were you her coach,
so the deal with this was, and this was one of the reasons why it was so important for both of us. We ran Honolulu together. I met her in Tokyo. And then we ran Sydney together, and I paced her at Sydney, which is a hard race, and it was hot. In Sydney, she ran a 5:48. Then we ran Honolulu together, and that one was hard because it was a monsoon. So we all just kind of took it super easy. We did like 10-second run, 30-second walk, and I think we finished around 6 or 6:37, somewhere in there. I don't even know. And she went to Honolulu to meet Jeff. Well, Jeff shattered his kneecap, so he couldn't go. So he offered her 6 months of e-coaching with him. So she got into Boston through the Abbott Foundation as a disabled runner. And so she reached out to me, and I reached out to Jeff to get her e-coaching. And so he said, absolutely. And he had CC'd, it's like he knew, right? So he CC'd me on all the emails. And we kind of went over like what her paces were going to be and to work on that. And he wrote her training plan for her. So right in the middle of that, he passed away. So, so knowing that what she was doing and that I was going to be there anyways, I had asked at that point, Chris, who's the chief training officer, I said, let me take Elizabeth because I already know her training. Jeff has included me in all the training and all the emails. So let me just take that on. And he's like, absolutely. And there was another runner that I took on as well. That was one of his e-coach clients. And I knew everything she did. I knew she finished her long run. She did her 26 miles. So she did all the training. So that wasn't, and a lot of people were like, well, she seemed to need to be better trained. That really wasn't what was happening. We still don't know what happened and why it happened. And the doctors don't know either. So, we can guess, but we don't know. But so she was trained and there was kind of a responsibility. Like I had told her, I'll get you to the finish line. We're going to get this 6-star. And I paced her from the beginning. I went back to her corral and I was with her from the beginning. And so when things got hard, you just adjusted and adapted. Yeah. When she's like, hold my hand, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hold your hand. And then when I had to get under her armpit to hold her up, I was like, okay, let's do that. It was like my dance move. And I'm going
to tell you, you are so strong.
Well,
to be able to do that for as many miles as you did.
Yeah, it was like 8, but I was in the military. So I think that military training kicked in, that no man left behind. And I just remember being exhausted the entire time. And I remember thinking, gosh, I don't know, what mile are we at? And I couldn't look because I had no hands because I was holding on to her. I couldn't get water or anything. So that was not probably a blessing, because if I'd have looked at my watch and gone, oh, holy crap, we got 7 miles to go, I might have given up, right? So, yeah. And we prayed at one point, I think it was like mile 8 when she really started struggling. I was kind of hanging on to her jacket that was tight around her waist, and I let it go to grab some water, and she fell into the gate system that was up. And I thought, uh-oh. So I grab her again, and I couldn't get my water out or anything. And I said, Elizabeth, we're going to pray. We're going to pray right now. So I laid hands on her. We prayed. We said, God, we pray for healing. We pray for help. We pray for everything you can send to us right now, in Jesus' name. And as soon as I said amen, there was a tap that said, do you need some help? And I thought, thank you, God, because this gentleman named Joe came up, and she was going to say no. And I'm like, yes, we need help. So he grabbed her other arm. It was probably about mile, I want to say, I had probably done it till about mile 19 or 20, and then he stepped in and he took us through till Boylston. And he had an amazing story too, because he was there with a gentleman who had been paralyzed twice and was out there with these like those hand crutches, and he was walking the marathon. And the other people he was with were the parents of a young man who died at the Boston bombing of the marathon. So they said, you go ahead and help that lady. She needs you more than we do right now. And so he was an angel. And he got us to Boylston, passed her over to a medic so he could go back and run it in with his friends. So, I think what people don't understand with running is yes, I understand people are passing you because they're going for a time. And I get that. And then there's those runners who are like, this person needs help and I'm going to help them. And for me, I had to give up the possibility of not getting a finish time for the first time ever. And I thought, well, you've got a couple Bostons under your belt. You've done this twice before. So it's at the end of the day, what's more important? Is it more important to help your friend? Because at this point now we're buddies. We're like sisters. Yeah. And because you don't get that close to someone.
On each other.
Yeah, we sweated on each other. I had my head under her armpit, and so it's like, what's more important at that point? A official finish time or getting her across the finish line? Because Boston is interesting. They give you, normally the course cutoff is 5:30 p.m. And because they added an extra wave in the charity running, they decided to add six minutes. So their cutoff time was 5:36. And we finished in 5:39. So we finished 3 minutes too late. So she got her Boston medal because she finished the Boston Marathon, but it didn't qualify for a 6-star finish.
Oh my gosh.
So we've reached out to Abbott. So there's more to this story. We've reached out to Abbott, and I reached out because CBS did a article on Jeffing, and they featured my group. And so I was on CBS News with them, and it went all over. And I reached out to Gwen, who was the reporter, and I told her, she saw the video, and they posted some after stuff on it, but really to follow up with the story next year so that so the success happens, like she'll get her 6-star. And how can we gain traction on that so that other runners can see, just because you didn't have success doesn't mean you can't have success, right? Don't give up. And I think, just can't give up.
Yeah. So I just remember watching the video and watching you come through and then seeing people be so critical and thinking to myself, I would want Cheri to do exactly what she did for Elizabeth for me if that was me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people who are not like the marathon, the amount of hours that you spend, maybe some marathoners feel like you did the wrong thing, but I think anybody who's actually trained for the number of hours, the number of miles, the number of months that you do that, and to have to pull out, you've had friends that will have to pull out of a marathon, and it's devastating. It feels devastating. And so I just thought, when I watched that, I cried every time I watched it. And I was like, if you've lost faith in humanity, just go watch a marathon.
You
Just
know,
go watch
yeah,
and see the
I,
people. And
yep,
yeah,
I agree. I agree 100%. And I tell you what, um, when I looked up and we were so close to the finish line and I saw the clock shut off, I thought, oh my gosh, that's it. We're not gonna get the 6-star. I worked so hard. Elizabeth worked so hard. But then right about then is when the stretcher came over. If you watched the video, you saw the lady with the stretcher come over, and what she had said was, if you get on this stretcher, you're disqualified. And in as much as Elizabeth was out of it, she said one word, and that was no. So you watch me go back to her, grab her arm, and sidestep the stretcher, because I thought, okay, she's still there, and she still wants to cross that finish line. We're going to get her there. And that's the medic said the same thing. He's like, okay, let's go. And he sidesteps too, because at this point we're vested in this, right? And I think the comments, and there weren't that many. There was a couple people, and I just think that when I see people who make bad comments, one guy in the Just Jeffing It site, he wouldn't let it go. And I was just like, you know what, respectfully, you weren't there. So you don't know what was going on. So let it go. And people think that they're going to come in after the fact. I had a runner who did the same thing, and I said, respectfully, you weren't there. It's easy to second guess after the fact. But I remember crossing the finish line, and I just cried. I was so exhausted. If you looked at my face, you could see I was exhausted. I'm still yelling orders out to her, right? Like, Elizabeth, look up, look up. There's the finish line. Wake up and enjoy that you're going to cross the finish line. And I was talking to her and trying to, because I knew she could hear me. And I crossed that finish line. They got the wheelchair out, and I just started to cry. I was so exhausted. And then I called my husband, right? And as soon as I heard his voice, I'm like, and he, you know, my husband's so good. He just listens. He doesn't say anything. I go through and I blubber like an idiot for 5 minutes or something. And I'm like, okay, I'll call you back. I got to go find out what happened to her. And and then we didn't know what happened to her, because the medics wouldn't give us information. And it was 24 hours before we found out what happened to her, because her core body temperature was 105. So they stuck her in ice, including her phone. They threw her right in the ice bath to bring her. And so her phone was, so she couldn't reach out to anybody, because all your numbers are in your phone. So I'm texting her like, Elizabeth, are you okay? Did you die? What's going on? Please let me know. And we finally called the BAA, and they said, well, did you try calling, Boston, Mass? Yes. Did you call Brigham? Yes. Did you call Tufts? No. So we called Tufts, and she was there. We hopped in an Uber and headed over. But yeah, I think for runners, I would do it again. There's no race that is more important than another runner, in my opinion. And honestly, I always tell people I'm not going to win. So why wouldn't I help someone if I have the opportunity? If I see someone on the side of the road, I go over and ask them if they're okay. Do they need anything like that? Because really, that's our job as humans, right? And I think people forget about that when they're out there on that race course. And I always wonder, when people are mean or anything, I just think, I feel bad for you. You're not happy. And I'm a happy person. So yeah.
I think that's just running, and me finding a running community. I'm part of Black Girls Run, and I'm the ambassador of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, where I live. We have the only run group in Iowa, and so I'm the first ambassador in Iowa. But there's over 250,000 women nationwide that are part of Black Girls Run.
I actually got to experience a little bit of that, and I'll tell you the story when you're done.
Yeah, and just being able to go, I've decided now, just being connected with those women who have similar goals but different stories, and everyone has a different story and a different reason why they're running, and just the support that has been given through the running community, and knowing that if something were to happen to me in a race, I have no doubt that multiple runners would come over and they would help me. It's one of the most safest spaces there is. And for me, running has been a huge journey of faith. I spend a lot of time, I'm very slow, and I spend a lot of time when I'm training and I have to get to 26 miles or 24 miles. It takes all day. And people will be like, let me run with you. And I'm like, no, thanks. I just want to go out by myself. I want to spend a lot of time in prayer on the trail and just figuring out who I am and who I'm supposed to be. And so it's been it's really elevated my faith because I've gotten to spend a lot more time with the Lord on the trail.
Yeah, and you get to go look around, and look at all the beauty that he's created and that he's given you this amazing body, like the full armor of God. We put on our shoes of peace, and and we get out there, and this body is what the armor sits on. And so if we do not treat it correctly, and I think through running, it's about mile 8 or 9 is when that euphoria kicks in, and I am just happy with the world, and that is in the moment I love God the most, so. I get it. A Black Girls Run story, though. I was pacing the Donna Marathon in Jacksonville. And the first year I paced it, I think I paced 6 hours or 6:15. It doesn't matter. But I had this group of black gals, and they were all there to support their friend who was a breast cancer survivor. And they were all Black Girls Run. And we were just jibber-jabbing the whole time and having a great time. And then the gal that we were with, and I found out a lot about the community and everything because we have all these different running communities, and I like to learn about them because I think it's all really important. And why do we need to have these, why do we need to have a breast cancer race? Why do we need to have this? Why do we need to have the Galloway Method? Well, because it comes from a place of it wasn't supported enough, so we created it, right? And so the gals that I was with, we all finished, but the gal who had the breast cancer and she was a survivor, she fell back. Well, I was pacing, so I couldn't grab her, and all her friends stayed with me. So once I crossed the finish line, I was with another friend of mine, David. He was my co-pacer. I handed him my bib, and I said, I got to go. I went back and grabbed this gal so she could get across the finish line. And I just remember the look on her face was like, oh, thank God someone didn't forget about me. And I think she had probably about 1.5 miles or 2 miles left to go. And we just did a nice, easy, we just did I said, can you do 10 seconds? And she said, I can do 10 seconds. So we did 10 and 30 all the way through and got her to the finish line. But at the finish line, everybody was super supportive of her. But I just thought this is a community I could get behind because they're all really supportive runners. I mean, clearly, I don't know if I qualify, but I think, would you let me in anyway?
It's very inclusive. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women. And so the mission is to reduce those risk factors in all women. So it's very inclusive. My mom is part of the group. She's white. We are a very multicultural group, and it's very inclusive of all women. And we went to the capital city. So I did the capital city half marathon, not this one, not 26, but 2025. And that was my first Black Girls Run national meetup. And there were over 750 women from Black Girls Run nationwide who were there. And they stay out. We will have people stay out on the course for the last runner. Yeah. Whether it's our group or not, stay out on the course for the last runner. And the philosophy is no runner left behind. And you just stay out there and you wait and you cheer them in and you get them across the finish line. And there was a man who was doing the 5K, and he finished the 5K. It was, I would say, over 3 hours. And there were Black Girls Run members that stayed out there and they waited for him and they walked him across that line, that last half mile. And just to be able to be part of a group like that. I'm part of multiple, I'm part of the Jeffing community and the Black Girls Run community. And then we have some local run groups that are just really awesome. And run groups are where it's at. I was afraid of the run group for a really long time because I'm so slow, and I realized how inclusive runners are. And runners, I mean, so the thing about running is, because I know when I started my group here in Ventura, I had a runner
And she had just joined another run group, and they were super nice to her, but she's like, I'm always finishing last and I'm running alone. And I didn't join the run group to run alone. You know, when you join a group, you want to run with the group. Right. And one of the things with us, when we run our long runs, we slow it way down. I mean, 15:30, 20:30, whatever it looks like, we're slowing it down. And if there's 5 of us training for a marathon, whoever's the slowest one in the group, we slow down to them. And I've always had people in the group who are like, well, I can't run that slow. And I bet you can, because I think you can. I can slow down. I can run a 7-hour marathon and I can run a 4.5-hour marathon. You can slow it down. Right. And it's way more fun to slow it down. Trust me when I tell you, I don't have a lot of fun when I'm trying to run a sub 4:30 marathon. There's a lot of work involved, and there's a lot of thinking involved and overthinking involved, and oh, life is horrible, and the whole monkey brain thing happens. I'd much rather be at the back of the pack telling jokes, laughing, getting to know someone. You know,
make more friends there.
You do. You really do. I think I have a lot of friends because of that, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I went through my certification classes, and I'm not going to name the certification because I didn't appreciate what the person said, so I don't want to give them a bad rap. But I was talking about, because at that point I was a program director for Jeff, and we had to create a running plan for a marathon. And I said, you know, we run to the distance. And that person was like, why would you run to the distance? I said, because nothing new on race day includes the distance. And I work for Jeff Galloway, and this is just how we do it. And we've never had anybody fail doing it this way, you know. They've never not finished. Now, did they finish in the required time? I don't know, but they never didn't, you know, they always finished. So, and he was just kind of really, I felt rude. I might have been having a bad day too. That can happen, right? But I just kind of thought, who pooped in your Easter basket today, sir? And I finally said, I'll take the back of the Packers any day over the people in the front. I said, because the people in the front who think that they're elites, they're not very nice sometimes. And I said, and everybody in the back, I said, I've never met a mad runner or a mean runner in the back ever. I said, so if you want to pick groups, I'll pick that group. And at that point, I was probably seeing red, so I had to calm down. And I think we went into breakout sessions after that. But I just thought, and he probably didn't mean anything. Most people who are faster runners, they don't mean anything by it. They really don't. Right. They just don't know until they have to use it. I had our coach for the Liver Foundation, because that's the charity that I have run for the last 3 years, and I love them. Coach Brian, he had pulled something, or something happened during the Boston Marathon, and he had to use run walk. And he was not a run walker, but we had created a plan for some of the runners who needed it. And he said, oh my gosh, he goes, I felt so great at the end. That was fantastic. He couldn't stop saying the word fantastic. And he really, really liked it. And so he wants to learn more about it so he can coach his runners using run walk. So I think that if people actually try it, they find out how truly great it is.
If you have any questions about the Galloway method, you could go to the Just Jeffing It Facebook group and get a lot of information there. You can reach out to us at the Slow and Steady Sisterhood at gmail.com.
Because we want to keep everybody running to their 100.
You can reach out to us on social media at the Slow and Steady Sisterhood Facebook page. Remember, the race is best run at conversational pace. Thanks, everyone.